thank you all again, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's joining us this afternoon for the Joint Committee meeting here in the City Hall. Delighted to welcome my friends and colleagues from the Joint Committee, Councillor Dina Romero, Leader of Bath and North East Somerset, Councillor Tony Savage, Leader of South Gloucestershire Council. A very warm welcome to Councillor Mike Bell, who's the Deputy Leader of North Somerset, who's here standing in for Councillor Don Davis, and of course to Mayor Marvin Rees, the Mayor of Bristol. Thank you all very much indeed. A quick reminder of any of the parish notices, and that is that there are no fire drills planned for today. So in the event of a fire, please take direction from the staff who will assist with the evacuation. And please do not return to the building unless instructed to do so by the fire wardens. Normally at this point that I say the meeting is being recorded. For the record it is. It's being recorded at the moment by our colleague Tim here. So again, should anybody have any issues and not wish to be recorded, please indicate as we go through the meeting. In that case, we now move on to apologies for absence. We've received apologies from Councillor Davis, from Professor Steve West as Chair of the Local Enterprise Partnership, and from Councillor Clark, Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission. May I ask members of the committee if they have any declarations of interest under the Localism Act of 2011 that they would like to record at this stage? I note for the record that there are none. Minutes from the previous Joint Committee meeting have been circulated with the meeting papers. Do members have any comments regarding their accuracy? If not, then I take it that you're happy for me to sign them for the record. I note that everybody is nodding, so thank you. Lots, as always happens between meetings. We spoke at length about a lot of the work that we've been doing regionally around Metro West, the importance of having had the Secretary of State here to give his support to our Bristol East Junction needs, regarding the very important work that's taking place here around the Temple Quarter development as a really important development for regeneration that will benefit everybody across the region. We spoke about our business grant, green business grant funds, but there's lots of other work that's been taking place as well around autonomous vehicles. We've been having meetings, and I was delighted to have a meeting recently with the President of the Institution of Civil Engineers, talking about how as a region we both deliver at pace the infrastructure and housing needs that we have, but also taking into consideration the very, very pressing aspects around inclusive growth and the climate emergency. So as always, a great deal goes on between meetings, and again I'm grateful to all officers and members who work so hard between the times that we formally meet. That takes us neatly on to comments from the Chair of the Local Enterprise Partnership. Those who are at the earlier meeting know that Steve West can't be with us today due to there being a graduation ceremony for his university. But again, I'm sure you'd like us to also reinforce the comments and our appreciation that we made earlier to all the members of our LEP who give their time voluntarily to help us all across the region. So thanks on the record there, please. Next item is comments from the Chair of the Combined Authorities Overview and Scrutiny Commission. As we heard earlier, we've had apologies from the Chair. Comments were submitted earlier to the Combined Authority, and they will be shared and form part of the record of this meeting. Item 8 is items from the public. There were no questions received. I'm pleased that we have 2 statements that we've received. I'm very happy to take those in the order in which we received them. So I'd like to invite Dave Redgewell, if you'd like to address and talk to the committee.
Thank you very much, Dave Redgewell, representing Transport Users and Inequalities, also a member of the Mayor's Transport Board. I want to raise a couple of issues. Firstly, obviously, I welcome the A41808 corridor investment, because that fits in with the Mayor's bus plan to make sure we get investment in 150 vehicles, 5-minute frequencies on service 1 and 2, and obviously with dedication bus lanes And now that we've got community consensus on that route, it's very important we now get down to delivery and WECA start to put that on the ground and build it, because obviously the infrastructure will in place. Where we do need to make some progress though is what's going to happen in South Gloucestershire, because we're going to get to the boundary at Braintree roundabout, and we need to know, Mr Mayor, how we're going to take this forward to Cripps Causeway and to the Patchway new neighbourhoods, and what bus priorities South Gloucestershire is going to put in place to make sure that our buses move smoothly through the whole conurbation. That's very important. On the bus deal, obviously, that's the only game in town. We can talk about franchising if we want to in the next 5 years. The bus deal is the game in town between First Group and possibly Stagecoach. We need to get that through and through the 4 unitary authorities, including North Somerset, and make sure we get delivery of 150 vehicles. It's absolutely crucial we see delivery in this area, and the buses are our first delivery. Welcome the integrated transport and the smart cards, but remind everybody there are 7 cards already in place by the West England Partnership. We do have integrated ticketing, we have the Freedom Pass, we do have the Bristol Rider, the Western Beer Rider, the Bath Rider, and the Bristol Rider, which are all integrated ticketing on all our buses and are available to buy today, if you want to, in paper form or on smart card form from our operators. Just want to put on record because, you know, the public need to know, the post is here, perhaps you can tell the public we have these cards, they can buy them. We don't have an issue about crossing the buses in our area, they're available, it's just telling the public we've got them. So that's my first point there. I welcome all the work on smart cards and Jason putting it onto smart systems. On rail, obviously I welcome the work on rail and the investment to Westbury and the need to make sure we go through with the deal and we get on with it as soon as possible and also get on with the delivery. On Weston-super-Mare, I welcome the bus interchange, but I want community consultation. I did say that to the West-super-Mare Transport Committee the other day. There's been consultation with First, but we need consultation with Stagecoach, also coming to Weston from September, and also with basically the users, Mr Mayor, the users. And I hope North Somerset Council will simply join WECA, because running 2 meetings is ridiculous and costing taxpayers a lot of money. So please, next election, can we just have North Somerset in the tent? And we have an election in North Somerset in 21 for the mayor that covers the whole of the region. That's what we would like as stakeholders. So on that, and consultation is very important on the issue there. On the issue around Metro West, obviously the other issue is the Henbury Loop, and the issue around tram train and the need to make sure we work with YTL to make sure we've got a proper scheme. I'm very worried that the YTL scheme is being bolted on the back. Met them last night, met all their engineers last night, I had a tour of the site, been brilliant. But I need to understand the train station and make sure half the train stations in South Gloucestershire, the other half's in Bristol. Just need to make sure we work across the boundary and we get the delivery of it. It should be a great project for the city region, we just need to get on with it. And finally on tourism, there's a deal to be had here with Somerset. I know you lead on tourism, Mr Mayor. With a bid with Destination Bristol, Destination Somerset, Bristol Bath Culture, to see if we can get some money out of government. John Hurst is keen to push that, and I'm very keen to see it happen, and improving the public transport, marketing, and getting more people onto the buses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You've touched on all the things that we discussed before. Tourism you raised for the first time. We're doing an awful lot of work collectively across the region around the tourism free. And we're coming together in terms of sector bids into it. So you may not see it, but there's a huge amount of work we are all doing collectively in that space. But thank you. In that case, thank you very much, Tina.
Thank you. So in the meeting before, I just announced our formal end to our postcards campaigns. I'm sure Tim will be very relieved. There'll be no more postcards coming in the direction. The reason I actually gave my final postcard to you, in personal note, is because when I first wrote for outturn, I wrote it in the form that you'll see in the statement, the 3-tiered approach. And the only reason it got turned into a 2-year thing is we had to put the WECA bit at front. So I would really commend looking at the way I've tiered it in 3 ways: short, medium, and long term. So I just wanted to sort of comment, so let me just leave that as a concept, that there's a sort of thing we can do straight away, then medium. I think the XR message, if you like, I've had to take some convincing over climate change, but the evidence, and we've done some talks with our Christians and science groups, so we've got a very good archive of all the information about not just climate change, species and all that. So actually I do feel myself convinced about the climate emergency. But I think one thing XR have shown us quite neatly is that road space removal is really the way to see now. I don't know how you notice how calm it is when they closed Bristol Bridge, when they shut the M32. I must say I rejoiced because the M32 is taking 26,000 cars a day from South Gloss, nice commuters, the big cars coming into South Gloss, and dumping all their diesel onto Eastern residents. And then from Eastern, thinking about poverty and Barton's heart for poverty, I would commend the half-hour service because that will get workers to Avonmouth and Sevenside, 7 each hourly. At the moment it's 1 every 2 hours, and sometimes if it's cancelled, then you have to wait for 2 hours. That's ridiculous. Okay, there's Standard Road Station. So I think the half-hour service will really help because people can go straight from Lawrence or Stapleton Road into. The other thing is cycles on trains. At the moment, people are quite lenient on cycles on trains. If we can make cycles on train a thing, it's a fantastic way to go about the city. It really, I've been doing it for the past month because I've got better points there, and I'm trying to do the travel race challenge. But if it's openly acknowledged a guard van, the cycles, it really, and maybe get Metrobus for the cycles, because it really changed. Maybe free e-bikes. Give out free e-bikes to people, free bus travel for the children. Yes, sorry. Yeah, I will try and wind up. Yes, I think so I've just scribbled all over this piece of paper with lots of ideas. To look out for Bristol Car Free Day. I've sat down with Margaret's officer. I'm not going to announce anything, but it's going to be awesome. And I just want to congratulate WECA. So I just say one thing. WECA, you have a lot to teach Western Gateway. So Western Gateway is a great big sub-regional body. They are pathetic. They have just come up with Salisbury roundabouts, Chippenham bypass. You have a lot to teach them, WECA. Go to Western Gateway, show them how it's done with roundabouts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now going to move on to item 9 on the Joint Committee agenda, which is petitions from members of Joint Committee. I'm looking to the members to see if they have any to bring forward. I note for the record that there are none. Thank you. In that case, item 10 is the Local Enterprise Partnership and Invest Bristol and Bath Revenue Budget Outturn Report for April to May 2019. The Combined Authority acts as the accountable body for a range of funding streams on behalf of the West of England and LEP, and this is where that element falls into our consideration of this report. A lot of work goes again through lots of aspects across the region, and we are asked to consider the recommendations as set out in the papers. I'm very happy to move those. If I could look for a seconder, please. Thank you, Dina. Members, were there any points you'd like to raise to the paper and the recommendations in any shape or form? Thank you. In that case, may I ask you to indicate, I see that for both points A and C we are to formally note, so I'm happy if members that we formally note that for the record. And please, for item B as a recommendation, may I ask you to indicate if you are all in favour of that recommendation. I note for the record that we all are, therefore that is duly carried. Thank you. Item 11 is the Local Enterprise Partnership One Front Door Funding Programme. And this report asks the committee to consider business cases for a number of schemes, seeking funding through the Local Growth Fund, including Metro West Phase 1, the Workforce for the Future, and our Research and Innovation Challenge Fund. And it also seeks approval for reallocating just over £1.8 million of local growth funding to support the A4018 corridor improvements. Again, members, I'm very happy to move the recommendations. If I could ask one of you if you'll be happy to second. Thank you, Dina. Do you like to comment on any of the recommendations? Look across everybody concerned. No. In that case, please, we'll move to the voting. The voting is consistent across all of the recommendations. So if members are happy, I'm happy to take them on block and to ask you, please, to indicate if you're in favour of all the recommendations. I note for the record that we all are, therefore they are all duly carried. Item 12 is the integrated ticketing report regarding future work. This provides an update on the proposed next stages of the integrated ticketing project and seeks the committee's endorsement of the approach taken. Again, I'm very happy to move the recommendation. Lots of detail and work has gone into this. May I ask from this committee for a seconder, please? Thank you, Toby. Members, are there any comments you'd like to make either to the report or any of the recommendations? Marvin.
Tim, just to say what we said earlier on about having real deadlines. What's the date people can expect to feel, experience, taste a difference in the way stuff works? And we've got to, as constituent authorities, but as a combined authority, overcome that legacy of big statements being made and not enough being delivered. And that's really important.
Thank you. Good point. Just looking along the line. Dina, anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, it's the same comment I made at the previous meeting, which is to recognise the impact of seconding officers to this piece of work, and the impact that will have on their home local authority.
Thank you. And again, I'm pleased to reinforce those points we made earlier, which is very important. Yeah. Were there any other comments from members? In that case, please, we have one recommendation we're being asked to vote on that, so please may I ask you to indicate if you're happy to endorse the proposed next stage of the integrated ticketing proposal. And I note for the record that everybody is, so thank you very much. Takes us to item 13, excuse me, our employment and skills plan. And again, we are seeking formal approval of our employment and skills plan. And as we've discussed previously, this is the development of a regional employment and skills plan that has been agreed as a priority in the combined authorities business plan. And again, as we touched on earlier, it's very timely given the impending launch of our local industrial strategy. So again, vital piece of work that we've all undertaken with a lot of support from many partners across the authorities and elsewhere. So there has been significant public engagement and involvement of different groups in the communities in this. Very happy again to move the recommendation. If I could look for a formal seconder, please. Thank you, Toby. Were there any comments anyone would like to make to this item? Marvin, please. Then Toby. Yeah.
Just for the sake of what we said earlier, one was about looking at the connection to work experience. Yes. And I think the vital role that work experience and that taste of work can play in envisioning and beginning to connect people to those pathways into training and employment that we want to pick up on. So just an eye to either how we can connect to existing programs. We're really happy to share Bristol Works with people, see how it works, and South Gloss works, North Somerset works, Baines works. If that's it, we're happy to share the template, but also maybe think about extending into how we make that sustainable as part of this resource, and also looking at some of those flagship sectors. I'm thinking particularly growth and regen, seeing as we're going to be building lots, and the creative sector. How do we maximise the opportunity coming with Channel 4? That we met them on Friday. They got commissioners coming here. It's very significant. October they'll be opening, but how do we begin to really take advantage of that global leadership we play in the creative sector?
Thank you. Good points. Toby, was there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Tim. I wasn't going to repeat the point that I made earlier. I wanted to make a new point, and that's to welcome the focus on having a more joined up and integrated system. And I think for me, it's around having confidence that we've got ambitious plans to secure the places and provision that we need across the region. My concern from a South Gloucestershire point of view is the level of growth that we are seeing around the north and eastern fringes of the Bristol urban area, coupled with having to deal with the vacating of the Soundwell campus, that we do need to have a better grip as a region on ensuring that we do have the FE places in the right locations to ensure that those new communities and that growing population, that we can cater for them regardless of where they live.
Points, thanks. Is there anything else anybody else would like to add? In that case, thank you very much. We have one recommendation, and we are being asked to approve the Employment and Skills Plan. So please could I ask you to indicate, members, if you are happy to do so. I note for the record we all are. Thank you very much. That takes us to item 14, the business plan for the 2019-20 Q1 progress report. Again, I always want to acknowledge the great deal of work that goes across, takes place from officers across the authorities on these elements of work. It's very easy when we all sit here and the public do just to see some paper. There is huge amounts of work go on behind all of these reports. So I welcome this and very happy. So I'd just like to ask members, whilst we are noting, if they have any comments that they'd like to make.
Sorry, it just feels a bit artificial doing it again, but
No,
just in terms of these notes, something that we talked about very positively before we came in, Tim, it's about looking at our core documents, and as we've done a good job of beginning to talk about inclusive growth, but beginning to up the reference on climate emergency and IPCC report, and it may be worth just making an explicit reference, maybe in appendix, with reference to the report, just so we're doing the stuff, but we're seen to be doing the stuff as well, and just to make sure that language is included in.
No, thank you for reinforcing those comments we were making earlier, yes. Anybody else would like to add anything at that? In that case, friends, this is for noting, and for the record, we will duly note that report. Thank you very much. Item 15 is an information element, and that is just to share with everybody that the decisions and draft minutes of this meeting will be published on the Combined Authorities website as soon as possible, as will the public statements submitted earlier. And on that note, thank you all very much indeed for your attendance. And I am looking to Charlesia to click her phone on to tell me that we are declaring the meeting closed at 12:34. Thank you all again.